The Gospel according to St. John, chapter 6, Feeding the 5,000, by Dr. Christopher Oseodion Aburime. After these events, Jesus crossed the Sea of Galilee, or the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him because they saw the signs he had performed in healing the sick. Then Jesus climbed a mountainside, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Jewish feast of Passover was at hand. Jesus looked up and saw a great throng approaching. And he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for the multitude to eat?" He asked this only to test Philip, for he knew precisely what he was going to do. Philip replied, 200 denarii would not purchase enough bread to give everyone a little piece each. Another of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "Here is a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are these among so many people?" Jesus said to them, "Let the people sit down and be orderly." The grasses there were pretty thick, and about 5,000 men sat down. At that point, Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and shared them out among those who were seated, as much as they pleased. Likewise, he shared the fish out among the throngs, as much as they pleased. When they had all eaten and were satisfied, he said to his disciples, "Gather the leftovers, that nothing shall be lost." So they gathered the remnants together and filled 12 big baskets with pieces of leftovers cast off by those who were already satisfied. After the people witnessed this wonderful sign that Jesus did, the people said, "This is truly the prophet we have been expecting." Jesus, realizing that the people were intending to force him to be their king, withdrew promptly to the solitude of the mountains. That evening, the disciples of Jesus went down to the seashore to wait for him. As darkness fell and Jesus had still not rejoined them, they got into a boat and set off across the sea for Capernaum. A strong wind blew as they rowed, and the sea was getting very rough. They had rowed 3 or 4 miles when suddenly they saw Jesus walking on the sea and approaching their boat. They were terrified. But he said to them, it's me, I'm here. Don't be afraid." Then they were willing to let him into the boat, and immediately the boat arrived at the shore where they were going. The following day, the throng that had stayed on the other side realized that only one rowing boat had been there, and that Jesus had not boarded the vessel with his disciples, but that the disciples had gone off by themselves. Quite a few vessels from Tiberias arrived near the area where the throngs were fed after the Lord blessed bread, giving thanks and praise to God. When the people realized that neither Jesus nor his disciples were present, they boarded their vessels and headed out across the sea to Capernaum to look for Jesus. When they arrived at their destination and found him, they asked him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" Jesus replied them and said, Truly, I say to you, you were looking for me not because you witnessed wonderful signs. Not because you witnessed wonderful signs, but because you had all the loaves you wanted when hungry. Do not labor for food that goes rotten, but labor for food that endures for eternal life. which the Son of Man will provide you. For on him God the Father himself has placed the seal of authority. Then they asked him, what must we do to accomplish the tasks? What must we do to accomplish the tasks God demands? Jesus replied, this is accomplishing God's task, to believe in the one he has sent. And they queried further, what wonderful sign will you yourself perform? What wonderful sign will you yourself perform that will make us believe in you? What work will you accomplish? Our ancestors ate manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who provided you the bread from heaven. It is my Father who provides you the bread from heaven. The real bread, the bread of life. For the bread of God is he who descends from heaven and gives life to the world. Sir, they said, give us this bread always. Give us this bread always. Then Jesus declared to them, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. All that the Father gives me, shall come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never reject. For I have descended from heaven not to do my own will, but to do the will of God who sent me. And this is the will of God who sent me, that I shall lose not even one of all he has given me, but raise them up to eternal life on the last day. It is my Father's will that whoever witnesses the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life. And I will raise him up on the last day. In the meantime, the Jews were grumbling bitterly concerning him, because he said, I am the bread that has descended from heaven. And they said, certainly this is Jesus, son of Joseph. This is Jesus, son of Joseph. We know his father and mother. So how can he now declare, I have descended from heaven? Jesus answered them, stop grumbling to each other. Stop grumbling to each other. No man can come to me unless the Father who sent me brings him. And I will raise him up on the final day. It is written in the scriptures, they will all be taught by God. Everyone who gives heed to the Father and learns from him comes to me. No man has seen the Father except him who is from God. He has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who has faith, whoever believes in Jesus has everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness and they died. But this is the bread which descends from heaven, that a man may eat and not die. I am the living bread which descended from heaven. Anyone who eats this bread will live always, and the bread that I will give is my body, which I will give for the life of the world. At this point, the Jews commenced a fiery dispute among themselves. How can this man give us his body to eat? How can this man give us his body to eat? And Jesus replied them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the body of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you cannot have eternal life in you. Whoever eats my body and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the final day. For my body is true food, and my blood is true drink. All who eat my body and drink my blood remain in me, and I in them. As the living Father sent me, and I have eternal life because of the Father, So anyone who feeds on me will have eternal life because of me. This is the bread that has descended from heaven. Your ancestors ate manna and died. But anyone who feeds on this bread will live always. This is the discourse that Jesus lectured in the synagogue in Capernaum. After hearing the discourse, many of his disciples said, "This is a difficult lecture. This is a difficult lecture. How can anyone grasp it?" Jesus was aware that his disciples were grumbling bitterly about this and said to them, "Does this bother you? Then what if you should witness the Son of Man going up to where he was before? It is the Spirit that gives eternal life. The body profits nothing. The words that I say to you, they are spirit. The words that I say to you, they are spirit. And they are eternal life. But there are some of you who do not believe. For Jesus knew from the beginning which of them did not believe and who was to betray him. And he said, "This is why I told you that no man can come and follow me unless the Father has given him the authority." After this, many of his companions went away and no longer accompanied him. Jesus asked the 12, "What about you? Are you going to leave?" Jesus asked the 12, "What about you? Are you going to leave also?" Simon Peter answered, "Lord, to whom shall we go? To whom shall we go? You alone have the words. You alone have the words of eternal life. We believe and we know that you are the Holy One of God." Then Jesus answered, "Did I not select the 12 of you? Yet one of you is a devil." He meant Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, since this was one of the 12 apostles who was later to betray him.